everybody, and welcome back to our second episode of There and Back Again, the tale of two entrepreneurs with myself, Aaron Sherwood, and Tom Lunabos. Now, if you didn't get the chance to watch our first recording, every month Tom and I will be coming on here and sharing our perspectives on all things entrepreneurship. And in this episode, really, the theme of this is all going to be centered around the topic of how a founder builds a team. And I'm really looking forward to this one because it really feels to me that I'm absolutely at a stage of building Rehuman where I've achieved a level of market validation and it's gaining a lot of excitement amongst the individuals that I'm speaking to. And I think really what I'm starting to notice is the power of the network effect. And I've got people now frequently asking me, hey, can we put bi-weekly or monthly calls in? And, Tom, I'm meeting all these people and I'm beginning to wonder how best I should be approaching these conversations because I'm becoming increasingly more aware that next year I'm going to get quite serious about building a team and I don't want to waste that opportunity now. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Oh, I got a lot of thoughts on that. And it becomes a really important aspect of how you will be viewed for the next several years. I mean, your ability to attract and retain A players, I'm not quite sure I know what an A player is, but the right people is going to be how you're going to be measured in a large degree by the boardroom and the investors themselves. So it's a really important element to recognize that every conversation is an opportunity and that you don't want to miss those opportunities as you do the network effect, and everybody does it different. I'm really kind of curious, you and I have been talking about how you've been going about it, but to me, there wasn't really a process associated to it with my six companies.
Mm,
It was more hanging out with the birds of the same feather. You just want to be in those communities where you have like minds, because ultimately what you're looking for are people that have shared visions to your vision and shared values. Uh, so it's the challenge is like what you were just saying. You're having a lot of different conversations. By the way, not everybody does.
mm,
You're benefited by the fact that you're in London and you have Shoreditch and you have a lot of different innovative communities in that area. For me, it was the Silicon Valley. There's a lot of entrepreneurs are in places that are not entrepreneurial, but that doesn't mean they're not entrepreneurs. So the
yeah.
network effect is a little bit harder for them as they go forward. So what are you going through right now? What are those conversations and what are your
Mm.
challenges?
I'm a bit trapped, honestly, because that concept that you mentioned around hanging around with birds of a feather is that I'm probably talking to quite a lot of people that are very like-minded, and I instantly think, you know what, we click, and absolutely, I could bring you on tomorrow. But I think where I'm struggling a little bit around the compatibility, but also recognizing that I don't necessarily need people that behave like me, that talk like me, that have the same skill set as me. I sort of need people that are completely different to me. For example, I recognize that I am not a technical founder, for example, and I need somebody that has that background. And so I think very early on, I think I was perhaps running around in the wrong circles because I'm questioning why aren't these people here? And so I'm absolutely at the stage now where I'm almost having to change the environment that I'm in to meet these people. Is really, I think, where I'm at. And this excites me that I'm at that position, but I'm also probably getting a bit nervous because, of course, there needs to be that connection, but equally it's I suppose a bit of a dance between finding a connection but not also being so different that you don't get on. And I'm really curious to know how you get that play right.
Well, there's an element, at least for me, there was an element of don't look at every decision as your last decision. I think you put pressure on yourself if you say, I got to hit you got to hit a home run in American terms. Uh, and my sports background came out. But that you have to land on the perfect player every time. The reality is a lot of things are going to move and change as you evolve. And you got to take the pressure off yourself, I think, a little bit to say the perfect player. I like what you said earlier, though. I think it starts with self-identification. You got to know your own skills and capacities and
Sure.
limitations. One of the core elements, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but it's really important. When you do hire people, you should be looking for people smarter than you. Now,
Mm.
the literal translation of that is people that are academically smarter than you, and that's not the point of that phrase. It's more, like you were saying, you're not a coder. You need really great coders. You need great
Sure.
architects. You need great salespeople. You need great finance people, great marketing people, and so the ability to identify both yourself and start with yourself always. Who am I? What do I stand for? What am I trying to do here? What are my values? And what's my vision? And that, if that, you will know whether or not you got a great chance of success in the startup by the ability to attract people, to it. The other thing that I learned along the way, I think I learned along the way, and maybe I wasn't always good at doing. Sometimes we're a little insecure about our idea and everything else, and you get in these great conversations with people like you were talking about, but you forget to let them know that you're hiring or that you're
Sure.
needing people, and so there you have a conversation that doesn't have an action to it, but it's really important to let people know, even if you're talking up, to people that are way above. And I know you're talking to some pretty senior people out there, uh, you know, they need to know what you need. And if you don't express that when you're talking to them, you might have missed an opportunity.
Missed it.
And so it's really important for you to, look for smarter people and also communicate openly, because that's the second element of leadership
Mm.
is communication. So, attract the best people, communicate, communicate, communicate.
I love this, and interesting that word you used around almost intelligence and academics. And I'd love to take this conversation up a level a little bit because as I'm sure the most of the tech world has been witnessing over the last few weeks, um, the exciting events that have been going on at OpenAI. And Tom, you figured it out days before the
Uh,
announcements were made. I think what's highlighted, well, significantly for me, is what can go wrong if you don't perhaps get your board correct. How do you go about finding the right board and making sure you don't fall into that position? Because I mean, it's definitely been quite lively, right?
oh my gosh. And I think for all of us that have sat in boardrooms for a long time, it was not unfamiliar to us, unfortunately, so to some degree, um, that to me, what was going on in OpenAI, which, it's still a great company, really terrific people inside that company, by the way. But, it was a for-profit company being masked as a nonprofit company, and that's where you lose your identity and you lose your horizon view, and you lose your throttle a little, or
Sure.
your rudder in terms of going towards that vision. And I do think they structured the board a little different than I would do, but it's hard for me to critique anybody else's board. I mean, I made probably every mistake you could possibly make along the way. Um, but I think, their corporate governance was interesting in that their investors were not really on the board. It was the founders, and it was kind of researchers that were really focused on nonprofit, while the founders were focused on profit. And so when you have that disconnect, you're going to have conflict and you'll have disruption. It was very public and all those kinds, but it happens a lot. It's not like this is a unique thing that happened. Um, so how do you change it? You've got to make sure everybody is on the same page with the vision. The how you get to that horizon or that vision will change dramatically along the way. You'll pivot all over the place. And so, and
Sure.
we having a lot, like you made a really important point, the diversity of the people around the table, the diversity of their backgrounds and their skills will
Mm.
lead you to go different ways to that destination, but you can never lose that destination. The destination is the key. And I think in this particular case, that board, was set up kind of, oddly, and they're doing the right things now, and this is just a standard pivot. It just happened to be really public, and it caused a lot of people being surprised when in fact it's happening all the time. So you shouldn't be too concerned.
Mm,
You know, you want to look, you want to pick investors to be around the table that have a shared vision, have the passion, but you also want to have, you know, discussions, and
sure.
discussions that may conflict with your points of view along the way. And ultimately that's about skills, right? That's, if your skill is the idea, there's going to be other skills on financial engineering. There'll be skills around marketing. There'll be skills around sales and go to market. And those skills will adjust your perspective, but it should not adjust your vision. So keep your eye on the horizon and keep a firm hand on the throttle. Does that make sense to you? And
Yeah.
does that resonate for Human?
Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective, and I definitely think there's a lot that I can learn from the events that have unfolded, and I definitely think so. And my eye is absolutely on diversity, and it's about making sure that the right people are in the right positions, and also share the same values and an excitement that I have for this idea. Because I mean, I'm biased because I've been very close to this idea, but I'm really passionate about this, and I want the same people that share that enthusiasm and excitement. So yeah, I think it's a very exciting journey ahead, but it's definitely been an interesting one to watch.
Well, I think it all comes back to that point. You know, number one, I picked you out of, 733,000 Accenture employees, largely because of passion, but because of your wicked intelligence as well. Your ability, you really want to solve this problem. You really want to solve
Sure.
this problem, and it's a big problem for the insurance companies and a lot of different entities. That, that passion it brought me in, and your ability to attract great people around you, a great team around you, is going to be the key. But it starts with the passion and the focus. I
Mm,
think the clarity. A lot of times, like I see, my team and I see so many different deals. I mean, we looked at 1,100 companies last year and picked 10 for
mm,
investments. And the thing that pops out for me is clarity of vision, clarity and purpose. And I think people will follow you around that journey. I know it because everybody around here in Accenture loves you to death and loves what you're doing. And so I've seen it inside. Now, now that it's, you've got to make people aware that you are moving towards funding and incorporation and what the
sure.
timeline is. And it's a little bit of, if I build it, will you come? And
Absolutely.
and that and that's really the game plan. So you got to give them a little timeline to, begin to think, oh, okay, I'm going to jump ship and go over here. And I don't mean jump ship from Accenture because I don't want that happening. But I think that's, they're going to have to set up their personal journeys on it. But I think you'll get there, Aaron. You're just really, really qualified, and this idea is really, really strong. So you're in that stress position right now, but don't sweat the small stuff. You're going to get there. You're going to have a great team around you. So that, I think one of the things that you got to think about, Aaron, is also, you want to give, it's your inflection of your voice. It's the
Mm,
confidence that you have when you're hiring somebody or trying to attract them to your team. They're going to resonate with your inflection as much as anything. And I go back to a personal non-technical story, that was a great, when I was 17, 18 years old, I worked for an American football team, called the Oakland Raiders. And there was a young wide receiver, which was this position in football in America, that scored a touchdown. This is back in the 70s. This is
sure.
way back, well, a long time ago. And back in the 70s, when somebody scored a touchdown, it was pretty much you put the ball down and you ran back to the sidelines, and a couple people patted you on the back. Today, you see people doing dances and all these kinds of
Confetti comes
celebrations. And
out.
yeah, confetti comes out, the light show goes on. But I'll never forget, I was standing on the sideline next to a seasoned vet. So this was a rookie that scored a touchdown, a veteran named Fred Biletnikoff, who's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. And the first thing he did with this wide receiver, Morris Bradshaw, is grab him by the collar and pulled him very close. And I happened to be standing next to him, and goes, next time, because he scores his touchdown, throws the ball down, spikes the ball, all this exuberation and everything,
Yeah.
and all excited because it was his first touchdown in the NFL. And Freddie pulls him close and says, next time, act like you've done this before. Act like you've been there.
Wow, that's so
Because
powerful.
you don't want this to be the last touchdown you ever score. And that's a
Absolutely.
great life lesson. When you're talking to people, you want to exude that you've been here, done this, and I'm going to win. We're going to build a great team here. So your inflection of your voice is really important in these discussions.
I think there's so much you can take away from that story. Thank you for sharing that, Tom.
Hopefully this was helpful to you. I mean, I'm, again, my journey isn't your journey. You're gonna go through completely different things, but the thing about being part of our little entrepreneur in residence program is you've got a team behind you, and
Absolutely.
we're going to continue to put you onto those platforms. So again, the team is going to be, your ability to attract the team is going to be core to your success. So, and I have no doubt you're going to be successful. So hopefully this helped everybody in the audience. And I'm looking for the next time we pull back around to there and back again, and see what we can help everybody with, and you and I can help each other build this company together.
Absolutely. This is fun. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.